We're going to have to post a spoiler alert all over this.
Spoiler alert! Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Cover. This is our Season 1 recap.
Yeah, we've come a long way in this season.
Really?
From start to finish has been a journey,
It has.
both for the channel and for the season.
Yeah.
So, guys, if you like what we're doing, like, share, subscribe. All your support is necessary. If you have a comment, leave it down below. We'll be sure to comment with you, have a discussion.
Yeah, let's start a discussion. All right, for our first section here, what we're going to do for the season recap is we're going to talk about what our favorite episode of the Season 1 was.
Our favorites differ quite a bit. I think there's a couple of episodes that hit me a little harder.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe different ones hit you. What was, out of Season 1, what was your favorite episode of the season?
My personally favorite episode was episode 4.
Okay.
I really liked episode 4 just because, of course, there was the fish miracle. But episode 4 is really, I think, where it kind of started getting into, like, Bible content. And, like, I really appreciated that. That was really what we was here for anyways.
Right.
So that's kind of like, that was really my favorite episode of the whole season was episode 4. That's kind of where the ball really started rolling, and then it was kind of just downhill from there.
Any particular part in that episode that stand out to you?
In episode 4?
Yeah.
I really liked, I know it's going to be crazy. I don't really mean to focus on the miracle, but really my favorite part of it was right after the miracle where they was all kind of on the seashore and he was like, follow me.
Yeah.
And then everybody, cause it's like the Bible reads where it's like, he's on the seashore and he's recruiting disciples.
Right.
And
right. Yeah.
so that's what really drawn me to that episode, because it was like, okay, wow, this is something I've read and seen, and now I'm seeing it on screen, and it's like, to me, it's where it really came alive.
Yeah. So my favorite episode so far this season was episode 5, the wedding.
Okay.
And that's for a number of reasons, which we'll go into a little bit later. One of the major reasons was I just liked the wedding miracle, and the way it was put together. It just blew me away. All of the symbolism and all of the way things were done in such a manner.
Yeah.
The wedding obviously was the major focal point of the episode, but the colors, man, the colors really stood out to me in that episode.
Yeah.
So to me, for content wise and for my own knowledge, gaining knowledge from an episode, I feel like I gained probably the most knowledge off of that one from all the research I did about Jewish wedding ceremonies, because there's a lot that goes into them.
There really is. I had no idea until we started, like you said, researching it, because obviously we're not Jewish.
Right.
But it's not like something we didn't enjoy. Like I enjoy learning, and especially about like Jewish customs and cultures and things like that. It really puts a lot of things in perspective that I didn't really make the connection to until I researched it, and I was like, wow, like their marriage custom is a lot like our Christian walk with God. Like it's really cool, the symbolisms that go there.
There are a lot of parallels in scripture to certain customs, and the wedding is one of those customs.
Yeah. And I had no idea, just because I'd never looked at a Jewish wedding because.
Well, I mean, the Bible talks about the bride and the bridegroom.
Yeah.
And so like understanding the wedding custom is a really deep subject.
Yeah.
To understand as you're reading scripture, there's a lot of things tied in there.
Right.
And so for me, it like shined a new light on certain scriptures, that learning about their customs, it shined a new light on certain scriptures for me. And so I feel like I gained the most from watching this episode.
Yeah.
Now, theatrically, probably it was kind of ho-hum for most of the episode, but like just the meaning of it for me was my favorite for sure. For sure.
That's cool. So, all right, we've did favorites. What was your least favorite episode of season 1?
Okay, so I know this was early on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I mentioned something about it. We talked about it a little in our very first video.
Right.
And so my least favorite, guys, was episode number 1. And I understand that they were character building and things.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go back and when I did research on Lilith,
yeah,
to me, that's a little bit of a... the one thing out of the entire series that really stuck in my craw a little.
Yeah.
And it just comes from the history of the character Lilith or the god Lilith or Babylon. It goes all the way back to Babylon.
Whatever name you give Lilith, I feel like it would be fair because she's probably been called it.
Yeah. I didn't really feel it was fair to Mary to associate necessarily Mary with a figure like Lilith, given Lilith's history.
Well, she has such a deep history, and then other cultures, and then video games, and then movies, and it's just like that name's been gone through many times.
Right, and it's kind of like if you had called Mary Athena or something like that,
right.
And to me that's like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Right. So. I understand why maybe they did it for theatrical purposes. That just kind of it stuck in my craw a little. I guess that's the best way to say it. There's a lot of history revolved around her.
Yeah.
And without going into it too much, because I don't really care to discuss it
right.
a whole lot and give her a lot of credit.
Well, we're not trying to shed light on that, but
if you go back, it goes back to even before Babylon.
Yeah.
And the very existence of Lilith in Babylonian tales contradicts scripture as the way I understand it and the way I read scripture.
Right.
It's basically, they call her the first Eve, which was Adam's first wife. To me, that was Eve. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So for me, that was one thing about the first season that just, it just hit a little wrong for me. Now, it moved past that fairly quick, though.
It did.
And so I was glad for that. But, that was just, that for me, that was something that really stood out that I was not a fan of.
Yeah, and I don't even think, they may not have even knew. You know what I'm saying? Her illustrious history. They may not have known.
And, depending on which version of Lilith you read, it depends on her backstory. Yeah. I mean, some people say that she became a vampire. Some people think she preyed on little kids, succubus. All of those terminologies are affiliated with the term Lilith.
Yeah.
So, like I said, if you know the history, it's kind of stuck in my craw just a little.
Oh, yeah. Especially to start the season with that.
Yeah, so it wasn't the best. Thank goodness I didn't give up on it.
Right.
Because it got better.
Oh yeah,
right?
Of course.
And
yeah, I feel like they just picked a name and went with it because she's associated with female and demonic things.
Yeah.
I'm not taking up for The Chosen. We're trying to be as objective as possible.
Correct.
But we're just sharing our thoughts because this is the season recap and we get a chance to do that. We didn't feel like it was so important to really jump on that first thing. We didn't want to be those people.
Well, the thing is when you're watching a television series, just as a baseline, the first couple of episodes is basically laying the groundwork for the rest of the series.
Right.
And so we had no idea where they were taking Mary.
Yeah.
Right. Or the groundwork that they were trying to lay. It was just blind going in. And so I think that may have been what hit me out of left field.
Yeah.
Is the very first instance of Mary I got to see was of this thing that I already kind of knew about.
Yeah.
So it was kind of
and we're
it
kind
was
of
it was a little lackluster for me in that regard, but the way that episode ended was absolutely gorgeous. So
yeah, we're kind of used to like music albums, and like the first track is like the tone for the entire album, and that was kind of the way I guess the first scene or the first episode was kind of like, I don't think I'd start there.
well, and the way movies work is direct opposite. So you use the first couple of episodes to set up the groundwork for the finale.
Yeah.
So I feel like it got a lot better as the season went on, though.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
So what was your least favorite episode?
I just got to be honest, go with my heart. It's got to be it's got to be episode 2 was my least favorite.
The Shabbat?
Yeah, I mean after
I liked it.
After episode 1, I was like, okay, I'm going to try to give it a chance, you know? And then after episode 2, I was like, I don't know if I really want to give this a chance. Like, honestly, that's where I was at with it. And then it's just because I didn't really see, outside of Mary being delivered from the demons, that is definitely in the Bible, and outside of like the very first part of the Sabbath thing, and the Sabbath itself, that's really the only thing that's really in the Bible.
Well, I think they did a really good job in this too. Like as I was talking about learning as we went, I learned a lot about the Sabbath and the Passover.
Yeah.
As we got further into researching this stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so the symbology behind everything, including the glass of wine, she mentioned setting the chair for Elijah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of reasons why they do certain things that I was fortunate enough. I'd never really wanted to research that sort of stuff before.
Right.
Of course, I'm not Jewish, so it wasn't second nature to me either.
Yeah.
I feel like as I researched it, I actually gained more knowledge though, watching some of the traditional things like the wedding or the Shabbat dinner. I wasn't as big of a stickler on that, but I can see where, coming out of episode 1 into maybe episode 2.
Yeah, as far as me, after we had watched the first 2 episodes, I was really like, oh wow, we're along for this ride.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't like it was a bad episode. I don't believe it was, but I believe it was just after 1, and I believe that's probably why 4 is my favorite, because after 1, 2, and 3, 4 was like checked every box. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's kind of
So it's like the mountaintop after the valley, and it really kind of started. I'm kind of critical by nature. So I was trying not to be that at the beginning, and I was really trying to give it a chance and let it develop.
Well, and I feel like too, like we're not trying to nitpick the episodes, right? So we don't want to. I mean, because I'm pretty sure none of the people spoke English either. But if we're going to go into that much of a nitpick, did they do some things that I wouldn't have done that way? Of course they did. Right?
Oh yeah.
But I mean, that's with everyone. That's not, and I feel like as Christians, a lot of times we guard our faith with such vigor that, don't cross that line kind of thing. Right. And we defend it with our lives. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to be as objective with religious material as you would be with, say, like another television show, like The Big Bang Theory or, I'm just using that for an example, but you can go into that, and even though you may not believe in evolution, it's about modern science. So you kind of give them a pass on certain things that they may do in that show.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're getting to the characters in themselves.
Fantastic.
I feel like the show did a really good job of making a character and different characters to the point where you can always find somebody to kind of gravitate towards.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what kind of person you are.
Yeah.
from, just from nature.
Yep.
So, out of the characters that they've revealed so far, do you have one that you've kind of gravitated towards?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the one that this might even sound weird, but whatever, the one I really gravitate towards the most, obviously there's Jesus, but I was trying to refrain from picking Jesus because, I mean, yeah, he's obviously going to be the fan favorite. But my favorite character, the one I really identify with the most, I think is Andrew, Peter's brother.
Okay.
Because for me, he's got parts where he's like really important.
Yeah.
Like when he was kind of announcing the Messiah to his brother, and he was trying to tell him, he's like, "Yo, I'm telling you, this is the guy, dude. We've been praying for him, right?" And he was like really out front in those episodes. But then there's other areas in the episode where he's like more of a supporting role character, and I believe I like the way he transitions from one to the next, and I just like for me, I like working in the backgrounds. Like I'm not like a forefront type person. Every moment, like I really like doing things for people that nobody knows about. So like for me, I think Andrew is really more important to his brother than what's led on.
Well, and I love their interactions with each other as well.
Oh,
if you've got siblings of any kind, they have a lot of the same relationship things that me and my siblings have.
Yeah,
it's like the older brother mentality and the younger brother mentality.
I got you.
And so
yeah, I really like Andrew. So far, I'm pretty good with Andrew. I like all of them.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying. I'm not trying to sound like a hater of anybody else. It's like picking your favorite peep. Like peeps are awesome. It don't matter which one you eat.
Yeah. So my favorite character, the character I gravitate towards more than anyone else is Matthew.
Okay.
And
I could have probably guessed that.
Yeah. So Matthew is he's a good-hearted person.
Yeah.
He don't always come across that way.
Right.
And so, he's a little bit of a loner.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been my MO throughout the years.
Yeah.
So my thing is I think he's a good person at heart, but he doesn't always come across as being necessarily a good person.
Yeah.
And he's misunderstood quite a bit in his motives.
Yeah. And another thing too, what we learned from one of our viewer comments was that he was actually wrote being on the autistic spectrum. So which makes him very analytical person.
Right.
So I think that's cool. I'm not saying that's how Matthew was. I just think it's interesting. It's an interesting take. That it took some guts to like go
he's
there.
He's a very logical person too.
Oh yeah.
Like he's very black and white, the numbers don't add up kind of person.
Yes.
So he's a very logic based character, and I mean I kind of relate to that from just looking at circumstances and trying to be logical throughout my life.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't make sense to me, now I have an issue with it.
Yeah, 2 + 2 is not equaling 4. What's going on here?
Yes, I'm in, like, that is my brain. I got 1,000 questions for every statement.
Yes.
And it's so that I can analyze every little detail.
Yeah.
And that's annoying to most people. And that kind of makes me an outsider because they're like, dude, get away from me.
Chill, bro. Bring it down a notch.
So I kind of, to me personally, I identify with Matthew.
That's really cool. That's an interesting choice.
Yeah. Yeah. He's, watching him develop too.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, powerful. Like, that is amazing to me.
And that's another thing I'd really like to point out is that these people, they kind of really did a really good job of, like, separating before Jesus and after Jesus in everyone's life.
Yes.
Like, I think that's amazing.
So Matthew's climbing up on the roof, right? And he's wiping the ladder off to get up on the roof.
Yes.
And if you've watched his character... And they make a subtle point at the beginning of the episode when he offers him an olive, and he has a towel wrapped around the olive.
Yeah.
And when he's there with Jesus, he's eating grapes out of a bowl with 2 other kids.
Yeah, and I think Quintus gave him something during that episode he never ate.
Yeah, it was an olive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd never eat it.
Yeah, it was just sitting in the napkin. He wouldn't even touch the olive with his fingers.
Like, what do I do with this thing?
Yeah, he wouldn't even touch it with his fingers. And at the end of the episode, he's kind of like grabbing grapes out of a public bowl. Like, for us, that's not a big deal, but for his character,
it was huge.
He's leaping mountains at this point.
Yeah. And what I think was really cool too, and what was kind of really a really subtle detail, you remember when he was going up the ladder and he's wiping the rungs off, and Peter come up behind and pushed him
and just shoved him,
and he said thank you.
Yeah,
because he can't escape himself.
That's right.
And I think I like stuff like that blows me away, dude.
Yeah, I love like if there's a highlight reel, Matthew's in there.
Oh yeah,
you could just like take what they've done with his character and just highlight reel that whole thing.
Yeah.
For me, that's the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked it. I agree. I'm with you. So we did the first episode. What was our favorite episode? We did what was our least favorite episode. Done a few character things, went over a lot of things. What was the most impactful scene that you remember seeing in season 1?
Peter's prayer.
Okay.
That was for me.
After the boat.
Yes.
Okay.
Episode 4.
Yeah.
Peter's prayer.
Yeah.
That sums up like that's it, guys. That is touchdown.
Yeah.
Right. That's the goal line.
Yeah.
It's good.
That's the epitome. That's the apex.
For me, that was it. Like that's the summary of everything else you're going to see. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the period at the end of the sentence.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, that's where we all need to be and want to be, and some of us reach that place sooner than others. And I think it was like you said, it really kind of brings out what he thought of himself at the time. And let's face it, we all believe that way at some point in our lives. We reach that point.
Well, yeah, I mean,
hopefully
everything he said was verbatim, basically the prayer that I prayed.
Yeah.
It really is shocking how similar you feel at that point in time. So for me, impactful, like to me, that's, a 99-yard kick return or whatever in football. So that's it. Like that's the biggest play you're going to have.
Right.
That's
kick 6.
Yeah. What was yours?
The scene that really touched me the most, that really impacted me rather, was Nicodemus when they was meeting to leave the city, and Nicodemus is standing there behind the building.
Yes.
And he's just bawling.
Yes.
To me, that really, I really felt for him because, like, I think I even said during that episode that, like, a lot of us make that same decision every day, and so to me, that really touched me. I know it's not in the Bible, but it was that moment where fear meets faith. And you're like, which one is going to win? I'm not saying he can't be faithful and he can't be a servant of the Lord and still remain in the lifestyle that he's currently in. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is you could just read that moment of, I want to do this so bad, but I just can't take that step.
Yes.
And his wife kind of underlined, please take me back to my life during that episode. And which was just another, he was like, you know what, I think I will go study at this point. I never pointed this out, but I really would like to at this point, is you remember during that episode, she said, do you not have any points that you're studying? And he said, no. And she said, well, you're a man of equal talents. You're just as good off the cuff as you are, as you are taught, right?
Yes.
Honest opinion, I believe he didn't prepare a speech because he wasn't going to be there.
Yeah,
and then when she had that talk with him, He was like,
It
"Yeah, I think
changed
I'll go
his mind.
study now."
It changed his mind.
Yeah, I do. I really do. And
So
we knew reading the Bible that he wasn't going to.
right,
But
right.
my heart was just like, oh my.
I felt for the guy. Like
Yeah.
I really did. I really felt for him during that moment.
Very few times when I'm watching movies, or I've not watched many shows, but very few times when I'm watching movies do I actually feel like crying. I almost cried with him during that episode.
There's been a couple of really powerful points made in these episodes to where it hits you at home. You know, we're gonna have to post a spoiler alert all over this.
Spoiler alert!
But if you haven't seen it, but like, there's a lot to unpack in each one of these episodes.
There really is.
There's a lot more good here than there is bad.
There is. There is. And like I said, even when we're picking like worst episode, what's our least favorite episode? It's like least favorite out of, I mean, the scale's pretty high.
Well, for me, our thoughts going into this were to review it on two separate scales, two separate spectrums.
Right.
One being a Christ-based show.
Right.
And how biblically accurate it was going to be or whatever. And we understood that they would have to take some liberties.
Right.
And two is as a miniseries in a whole.
I got you.
And so that has led us to like the episode 3 being out of place. Like, we're judging it based on like two different scales.
Yeah.
Not necessarily one or the other. And we're not here to nitpick every little thing or every creative difference we may have. Well, and let me ask you a question. So the guy that plays Jesus.
Yeah.
How do you feel like they've portrayed Jesus so far in the series?
Well, I like his portrayal
compared to like other movies and stuff that you've seen.
like his portrayal. I remember watching like The Greatest Story Ever Told. I remember watching Charlton Heston's Ten Commandments. Like all the religious movies, the old ones I've seen, Jesus is so like somber and like
proper.
I am God. You know what I mean? Like it, like that. They drive that point home hard, and like I really like the playful, personable Jesus. I really feel like that's who he was. Now, I'm not saying everything that Jesus does in The Chosen is dead on accurate with what I feel like Jesus did, but I do like his portrayal as a whole.
I just want to say this too. I love humor.
Yeah.
You love humor.
Of course.
We're crazy guys. But the way they've done the humor in this series, classy.
It is.
It really is classy. It will crack you up at times.
And it doesn't drown out the serious moments.
No.
Like each moment has its space to like happen.
Yes, I love the humor. They've got a funny dude writing this stuff in certain spots, because there's certain parts of this, like the acting will be humorous or the dialogue is like, will floor you.
Yeah.
Now there is some questionable dialogue, but again, like the humor aspect of it, I love. It's just classy humor.
It is.
It's not too over the top and trying too hard. It's like real world situations that we all experience that's hilarious.
Oh yeah, that's the funny. I mean, like when you, like you said, it's some things that we've experienced ourselves, so that's why you view it as funny. They're not trying to go out of their way to be funny, and I think that's when they're the most funny.
Yeah.
Is like just natural.
Yeah, don't try too hard. That's the thing. I think a lot of comedy shows, like sitcoms and stuff, they just try too hard sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's just, it comes off as, whatever.
Well, you know, it's kind of like one of the big rules in acting is like overacting.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of shows and movies and things, even Christian content, they just, it's like they go too hard to make a point.
Yeah.
Like the point gets made more, I think the point's made better subtly than it is like slapping you in the face.
It's almost like what we're doing right now with this video.
We're on it. We're so on it.
All right, guys.
I think it'd be cool if you put in the comments how the show affected you personally.
Yes.
Like how did it what did it touch in you that you was like, I'm grateful this show came along?
So what was your turning point and why? Leave it in the comments below.
If you even had a turning point. Some people might have just been on
board from the beginning.
On board from the get-go.
Yeah.
I personally, just because somebody slaps a Jesus sticker on something, I'm not like immediately on board.
Right. Well, and that goes back to being guarded about your faith.
Right. But again, I wasn't trying to be critical either, so,
yeah.
Or what affected me the most, about the show was kind of it makes me want to read more. Like it's
facts.
It's crazy. Like, because you see it on screen and you're like, was it really that way? Or, wow, it was like that. And it's such a good story. You just want to go read it. Like the more, for me personally, I don't know how everybody else is, but for me, the more I read the Bible, the more I want to read the Bible. It's like,
it's weird that way.
It's crazy. It's insanity. And you're like, they talk completely different back then than we do now. It's completely different. It's completely different from any book on this earth, but it's also the only book on this earth you can read your entire life and continue to learn from.
Yes.
It's unreal. And the amount of, just imagine how many people studied the Bible since we've had the Bible. Imagine how many people studied it and nobody ever, except Jesus, knew everything.
Or had all the answers.
I mean, that's just, wow. That's crazy to me. Like, we're designed to need each other.
Yeah.
All right. So in conclusion, I truly, truly am happy that we started this journey.
Yes. And look forward to continuing the journey. Like, yes. Share, and subscribe, guys. We need your help. It helps YouTube's algorithm, gets our videos out there.
Oh, yeah.
We are on this train.
It also helps your algorithm. If you like our content, then YouTube knows you want to see more of that type of content.
True.
We love y'all. Peace.